one of the questions we talked about last week, and I know we'll probably get into more detail in a later episode, was this infamous letter that I got from my ex-girlfriend at the time, a week
Yes.
before my wedding at the time. And it was this really long letter, like an 80-page letter, that I chose not to read. I started to read it, but then I said I stopped reading because I felt like it was going to get me in the wrong headspace like a few days before my wedding. And there was a lot of discussion last week with our guests at the time, and there seemed to be a lot of critique and criticism over me either not reading it or whatever. Yet there didn't seem to be any critique of the person who decided to give me such a letter a few days before my wedding. Not that I'm throwing any shade or anything. When there was 365
Are you
plus,
though? Aren't you though?
no,
Aren't
I'm
you
not,
kind of?
because there was
No,
365
go
plus.
ahead. Go ahead.
There were 365 plus days before that, and as I started to recall, like our relationship, whatever, because remember the whole thing went down because I originally broke up with this person at the time because I was a Christian and she was still checking out Christianity, and I didn't want to what they do. I mean, I didn't want to do what they call missionary dating, where you hope the person you're dating who's not a Christian becomes a Christian. Like I wanted her Christianity to be anyway. When she became a Christian, we got back together, we talked, and we decided mutually to stay separated. As I remember it, and I could be wrong, it was a long time ago. I even remember she felt more strongly about staying separated than even I. Like I was wavering, should we get back together? I felt like she was even strongest on remaining separated or, no longer together at the time. So it wasn't even like I broke up with her because of Christianity, which was true. She became a Christian, and I was like, I still don't want to go out with you. We mutually agreed on it, and I really felt like she was stronger about it. So like a year later, when I'm about to get married, she gives me this long letter, and I like understand the need to, I don't know, like process stuff that needs to be processed or whatever. But I just found it interesting that there is no critique from anybody last week about deciding to give me a letter like this 3 days before my wedding. So you all wanted to know, like, had I told Virginia about it, and had I told you?
Yes.
Hey,
So Virginia,
What'd she say?
You told me
Virginia,
there was a
you
letter.
knew before that, right preceding his wedding, he received this long letter from an ex that he decided not to read.
Well, I don't think I knew it was like 80 pages, but I think you told me that you got some sort of letter.
right.
She sent him a text or something. He told
Yeah.
you he got a text, a little text.
You got to post it.
Right. A
Yeah.
little text said, "You up?"
No, what did you say?
I said you got a text where she asked you, "You
Nothing.
up?" Nothing. It was
Okay.
I was making a joke.
Now, what do you think about my decision to not read the letter?
Well, I don't think I knew that you threw the letter away.
Wait a minute. I need to back up though for a second.
Me too.
Okay.
I have questions.
I really have to. I really, unfortunately, I didn't have the time this week. I really need to dedicate the time because I think it's very important for us to find this letter now.
I know.
But
It's going to be a running
I
theme
think
throughout the season.
I think you've raised a valid question. However, I am not recalling things the way that you are recalling them.
With regards to what?
In the way you're posing this question.
Oh, okay. How am I posing it? That's
Well, I mean the events leading up to the writing of the letter. And obviously this is whatever, probably 20 years ago. So our memories are not probably the best about exactly how things happened. However, I would say a couple things. One, as far as critiquing someone sending you that letter, there's an argument to be made that perhaps that is a transgression against you because you're about to get married, and obviously that's a huge act to put upon somebody who's about to get married. However, you have to realize you guys had a however many, I think you said 8-year relationship or whatever it was. This is a person who is significantly invested emotionally in you and you guys' relationship together. No matter what stage you guys were ever at in your relationship, I can tell you with 100% certainty that she never stopped wanting to marry you. And I don't know how much knowledge she had about the fact that you found somebody online and then I don't know how she found out you were getting married, but that's a major impact on her to where she felt like she needed to respond or not respond, but communicate to you the impact that it had on her that you had made this decision. And that was how the letter came to be. As far as the decision about you guys not being together, again, I think it's probably really addressed in the letter from what I remember from having read it. But I also feel like a lot of times women will be protective of their feelings and like, their emotions. And you guys had a lot of ups and downs and so on and so forth. And that mutual decision that you guys had to not get back together, I feel like was partly protective and partly a calculation that she felt like she needed to do in hopes to draw you back in once she could prove her Christian dedication to you. And then you would come back and like, she never stopped wanting to be married to you. So, I mean, anyway, that's all I have to say.
Kept trying to get back from the phantom zone. You're trying to get out of that phantom zone. Listen, now here's the question I have. You said
first of all, I would say that's a fair assessment. That sounds fair.
And then I just want to also I have a critique or about your assessment of the timing. You said it was 365, but really it wasn't, because you only dated the other person for 180 days, for 6 months, is what you told us last week. So she didn't even. So hold on.
From time of meeting to getting married.
Yeah. So she didn't even have the 365. She didn't know you were getting married. And then I don't even know. And now hearing this, I'm wondering how much time said person, your ex-girlfriend, had knowledge of you getting married to this new person, because it wasn't obviously 6 months. It could have been a month. It might have been a week or two before. So for her to come at you with the letter, I don't know how much time your ex-girlfriend had to process that and draft this letter that would, because of.
I can tell you this. I know this for sure. In her mind, she's like, I've been waiting for this for 8 years, and you told me you just met somebody and you're getting married, and I've been doing all this stuff, and I like committed myself to Christianity. Anyway, we can go over it.
She changed her whole paradigm. She changed her whole world paradigm for you.
All right, first, JD, you probably should change the background of your computer behind you.
Oh yeah, put
hold on. I'll put a big Dungeons
and picture. I was gonna say better picture on the back.
No, just do the screen save, like you were doing.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me try this. Let me try.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I know. You normally has like our photo.
I know. I was like, we're watching ourselves.
I know.
The back of it.
Yeah. Sorry.
Where's the one you had with of our photo?
There we go. How about this?
That works.
That's great.
That's good.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Okay.
That's even better.
All right.
All right.
So here's the thing with the letter. I know.
Oh, can I respond to JD first?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Just the time.
Yeah.
Tell me how I'm wrong with the time.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I know. You're going to find some silly argument about the time.
No. It was around July when she and I broke up. Because I remember taking like a long road trip, because it was actually one of the first times I felt spiritually attacked. And I remember one of my Christian friends at work telling me that, because I was telling him how hard it was to break up with this person, but I felt like it was the right thing to do. And my Christian friend was saying, like, when you give up things for Jesus, God will reward you. It was something along those lines. But I was feeling spiritually attacked. So I went on this long road. I was reading a bunch of...
By who? You were feeling attacked by your ex?
By the devil.
By the ex. Oh.
By the devil?
Yes.
Nigga, what?
Yes,
Oh,
the
we get
devil,
into Looney Tunes town
JD.
now. Okay.
You know, the devil
The guy with
is
the
at work.
pitchfork and jumping around, that guy?
That's not what the
Okay.
devil looks like.
Oh,
In
okay.
Christianity, when you're a devout Christian, one of the beliefs you had was that we are in a battle with princes and principalities. There's a spiritual warfare going on for our soul. Like right now, if you're a Christian, there's spirits and evil. Right now, there's a little demon on one side and a little angel on the other side.
There's Sam Jackson and,
Exactly.
and Morgan
Exactly.
Freeman.
That's a reference to my
This
book.
is the part where I stop questioning your atheism.
You stop questioning it?
Stop questioning it. When you're telling me about demon spirits and whatever, and they're fighting over your soul, I stop questioning why you stop believing.
Right. Ironically, that was
Things
one of the
that-
reasons.
What the hell are we talking about?
Among devout Christians, you believe there is spiritual warfare in all seriousness. And so I was feeling spiritually attacked. I was like, it was uncomfortable in my spirit. I was feeling,
Wait,
On
this
the
is
other
at the
si-
time of the breakup, is what you're
at
saying?
the time of the breakup.
Okay.
Now, in retrospect, on the other side of belief, I understand it. That was probably
called
just
guilt.
guilt. Yes, it was guilt. And that's how. Exactly. No lie. No cap. That's what it was. And so-
Oh, nice job,
Yeah,
Ron.
well, okay. I see you won the game today, and you use words properly. I like it. I like that.
So that's probably what it was. But at the time, it felt like spiritual warfare. So one of those long drives. Anyway, I remember it was around July. And so it would have been like a month after that or so in August, where she and I would have had this conversation about whether or not we get back together or whatnot. And so that was literally 1 year before my wedding.
No, I understand that, but
Right, but
just
as far
because
as
you had a discussion
That's-
1 year
that's what I
before your
meant by-
wedding, does
that's-
not
there would have been
preclude-
anything for her to write to you
Yeah.
about.
It doesn't
like,
preclude. When
you
did she
can't
find
say
out you were getting married?
365 days. You didn't
Yeah.
even meet. You didn't even
Because you
meet
could say
the
oh, there was
person
20 years
until
before your
6
wedding
months
that she
later.
coulda, I mean, there's 8 years before that she. I mean, you
Yeah,
can
I
throw
mean,
any timeline in. That doesn't
what?
matter. That doesn't
You're not
justify
getting-
anything.
Yeah, but
There
you
was
can't
8 years
meet your
before your
ex-wife till
wedding,
6
Ron.
months later after that.
No. I met my wife 3 months after that. So
Okay, so
But
So I
the
met my wife in
365 bears
November
little.
of
But
that
I
year.
just think saying 365 is unfair. It's an unfair
No.
comment because it has no. Sure, you guys had a discussion. You're breaking up, whatever. I get all that.
yeah.
But I'm just saying, if someone loved you guys could have broke up 3 years before that, and she could have been grappling with the Christianity, whatever. But she came to you, and you could have been the inspiration. Or you could have never left her mind. And then when she found out you were getting married, she had to hustle and get this letter
was-
written to you. That's the important point. When did she even know? When did she find out you were getting married? Because in her mind, she didn't even
I
know you
don't
were
know.
getting
it
married.
wasn't immediately when you started dating.
Yeah, that's
No,
a
I
good
didn't-
question. When did she find out you were getting married?
Yeah,
I don't know. That's I assume when you all
a week before,
I-
a week
No.
before, and then she scrambled this
Didn't
letter
she
together.
Didn't she run into
Oh, you know what? It was
or her?
probably
It was so and so. Our
That's who I-
mutual friends probably told her at some point.
the wife of the other person in my wedding. It absolutely was the wife
Told
of the other
her?
person who was. In
Are
my
you
wedding.
sure that's how?
Oh, come on,
Yes.
Yolanda, think about that.
There's no
person.
one else who would have been because that person was the one who wrote the blog post. That person was the one who wrote the blog post where she interviewed my ex-girlfriend talking about me, and I was like, "Oh wow!" Because I remember I came across
Oh,
it.
I don't remember that.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, you remember that person had a blog. Yeah, I told. Yeah,
I remember her having a blog, but I don't
but it
remember
goes
that.
to the point of it's still it obviously wasn't like here's a question I have to your ex-wife. When did you propose? How long was it?
May.
And you got married in August.
August.
So that's
3 months.
3 months. So
3
and even then, so I would say maybe she had 2 months or a month.
Okay, that's
that
fair.
was going down.
That's fair.
So it's not
We were
365.
processing
Like
this 22 years later, but it's fair.
yeah. No, I'm just trying to get everything straight because sure
Yeah.
we could have said 365, or we could have said it was 3 years earlier, or it was 8 years when she first met you, or we can start picking arbitrary times. But realistically,
No, I was tying the
when
time
did
to
she
when we
know
broke up.
that you were getting married?
Yeah,
And
right.
that's when it would probably lit a spark under her to write you this letter.
My only counter to that is, did it need to be learning about me getting married for her to write those things? Like, Because I
Well,
think
time
before
is
that,
of the essence. I would say yes.
What's in the letter?
Time would be of the essence.
I
read part
think
of it.
that you have to
Right.
you have to think about this, Ron.
Right.
You guys had broken up, you know, let's pretend she found out about it in June.
Okay.
Maybe you guys had been broken up almost a year.
Right.
I believe that you guys were not out of contact with each other until probably when you met your
Right.
person,
Correct.
your person who's going to become your wife. I think there was zero expectation after you having been in a multi-year relationship with someone where you guys had been close and loving to each other. I think there was zero expectation that in any relative time frame, Ron Dawson would be getting married to anybody. I wouldn't have thought that either. We were shocked when we found out you were getting married.
No,
So
sure. That's fair.
there was no impetus for her to think, I need to hurry up and send this letter to this guy
That's fair.
to communicate these things before
Right.
he decides to get married.
Right. To the 8-year
That's
brother. Yeah, yeah. I was like,
That's
Like,
true.
yeah.
I don't know if you remembered. So
We were shocked that you were getting
I
married.
remember talking to
no,
you.
a lot of
and I was
people
like,
were.
Ron, are you really, really sure? Because it felt rash to me. I was like, Ron, having discussions. I remember
Right.
having one or two times where I was like, okay, dude, just let me know if you need to get. Like, are you sure? Are you sure?
I don't know if I don't.
And not to say any, not that I had reservations about the person. I'm just saying it seemed very
Absolutely.
rash.
Absolutely. Like I had no hate for any of the friends who came out to me saying, even my friend, even like he wasn't my pastor, but like one of the ministry pastors at my church was like, yeah, all the same kind of questions because it was kind
Yeah,
of fast.
and I know several of the mutual friends that we have were, wow, that's really. We all had the
Totally
same
get it.
conversation
totally
around
get it.
this.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. But I don't know if you remember it. So on my first in-person date with my ex-wife, I had driven down to LA. And remember, I stayed at your place. I don't know if you remember. I stayed at your place, and the person we've been talking about actually called. I think they called you looking for me or something.
Called JD.
Yeah, or called you two or whatever.
Called the house.
Right, because I was on a trip to meet my.
I mean, we wouldn't have
wife.
thought. We would not have thought anything about that.
Right.
Like,
And
that
so I
isn't
think she was trying
something
to
that would
find
have been
me. She
committed
didn't know where I
to.
was because I wasn't answering
Oh,
her.
you know what? This sounds kind of familiar. Yeah, like because
Yeah.
you guys were supposed to meet, but you didn't. Like you somehow
Right, something
didn't
like that.
find each other or
Anyway.
something. It's like, oh yeah, or something. Yeah.
Anyway,
She
But there
already
was
saw the
something else
signal.
you
She already
said.
saw the red flags at that point.
no, but I'm saying there was something else you said. Do you remember the other thing you said
What are you asking me?
about the letter? You had said.
Virginia's like, what?
Because I didn't need to let her go. You had said something along the lines of, "Oh, because you were asking about me throwing it away."
Yeah. What was your question to me? And then I can.
I think your question was, "Do you think it was a good idea for me to read the letter?" And you said, "Do I?"
I basically asked you, well, what would your ex like? Because you're about to get married. So I said, well,
Oh,
what
that's
would
right.
your ex?
What?
What would your wife, soon to be wife?
How would she feel about me?
Yeah, if you had done that.
Right. And I said, I don't think she would have appreciated that.
But I actually think
If he had read the letter.
I think you asked me a question.
Yeah.
Was less about reading the letter, because I actually think you should have read the letter. Because
Oh, sure. I told her about it.
yeah,
That's
I think
the
you should have
question.
read the letter because your ex-girlfriend went to that trouble to share something,
Right.
and you didn't know what it was exactly.
Right.
So, and then to throw it away, like I just feel like,
Right.
No, the question was.
yeah, but
Sorry.
but then you asked me, like, if you should have told your ex-wife about it, and that's when I said, I think it depends on what would your ex-wife Like, what would she have wanted? Would she have wanted to know about it? Would she have not? Like, this is your
That's a good
guess,
question.
obviously.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
because, you're about to get married, like, it could also just kind of taint the beginning of your marriage. But, or like, if she was someone that doesn't want to know, then you did the right thing. But if she was someone like, but you went into this marriage and you didn't tell me you just got this letter, then I think that would have not been okay.
Right. Yeah, those are good points. Yeah.
But I
'Cause
think
that was one of our discussion questions last week was like, did I tell my
yeah.
soon-to-be
Yes, we
wife?
did discuss that. Yes.
And I had a
And I
reason.
thought Dr. V had a great response to that,
Or what did you
saying that, especially with all these guidelines and guardrails for Christianity, if you made the whole thing about your new wife is paramount. I asked the question, oh, so Christian men keep secrets from their wives? I mean, because Dr. V said you should have been able to talk to her about that letter, and then let the chips fall where they may. At least you're being honest.
Right.
And then that might, if your soon to be wife couldn't handle that, that might have been a red flag for you and the soon to be wife.
Absolutely.
Because
No, that's fair.
if you're going to be honest with her and tell her, hey, this is what's up, that to me is like showing more, and that's more upstanding. It's like showing, okay, here's a partner that I can trust because he's telling me everything and putting all this stuff out on the table. Me personally, I'd probably want to know that, because then something later won't come rearing its ugly head up in the relationship later.
I would totally would have known. But I think one of the things is like, there were probably other red flags. So
Step closer, Virginia. Get closer to the mic.
Saying like, were there other red flags? Right, you were getting married so quickly, and even if she did like react maybe in a not so positive way, would you have even considered that?
Right. And as I think about like whether or not it was right or not right to like tell her, I'm trying to remember if I went to our pastor at the time and who was marrying us, whether or not that was getting his insight. Because I felt like I went to somebody to get their insight about whether or not what I should do with the letter.
And I have a question. Wasn't it about the pastor? Wasn't the pastor also a relative?
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
that's not.
No, that's
work.
not.
No, and part of my point, and I believe Dr. V's point when we spoke about this last, was that all of this non-talk about the letter was complete avoidance of conflict. Like you just didn't want to introduce any possibilities of, oh, this might upset her, it might upset me, it might make me have questions in my mind. Like it was all avoidance.
And I'm gonna admit to one of the biggest contributions to the pain in my marriage was stuff like that. So as I think about it, I don't know 100% for sure she would not have wanted me to tell her. Maybe it was something I convinced myself or whatever. But one of the earliest arguments that we got into after being married was because of people who that I had invited to our reception that my wife at the time didn't know about, the kind of relationships I had with those people who were friends at the time, but had been more than kind of friends before that. And I invited them to the
I remember that. Yeah.
And which is totally understandable from a wife's point of view. Like you invited this woman who you had this kind of interchange with, and you didn't even tell me that that's who that person was.
Yeah.
And and so I feel like there was this mixture of things, and that was one of the things I can admit that I dealt with, and that I felt like I grew out of this idea of not. I feel like one of the things I was guilty of was like not telling complete truths about things.
Yeah, not being forthright.
Right, and so I don't know if this counts as part of that, but it kind of falls in that genre, I guess, of not wanting to have that
lies by omission.
In a sense.
I mean, yeah. Well, I'm thinking too, though, based on your relationship, like even if you did bring it up, I think just kind of from, I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know you back then, but I also, once again, think like your relationship maybe have been able to handle that kind of conversation and conflict, even just given some of the things you've told me about, like, who you invited and this and the reactions. Like, so for you, you're probably trying to, like, you're in denial or avoidance so that this wedding could happen versus like, allowing
Whatever
these
needs
things to
happen.
play out, because I think
Yep.
you were just set on like, I'm getting married.
Yeah.
And so you did everything like
He's
didn't
like, damn the consequences. I'm getting
no,
married.
but in the sense of like the red flags, there were other red flags there, because if you couldn't
Yeah.
tell the truth
Or I felt
at
Yeah.
that beginning, even in the beginning stages, right? You didn't feel like you could tell the truth, like, hey, I got this letter, because it's not your fault you got the letter.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
But if if your relationship couldn't even handle it, then that's a red flag. But there might have been other red flags where you're just like not trying to face it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. So that's yeah.
We got to find it. I got to find it.
I want to read it now.
I wonder what once you read it again, once you see it, and I wonder how you're gonna feel about what was said.
Right.
I think it's important. I think it's important for the book.
Could have changed your whole path, your life.
And what Ron doesn't realize is at the end of the letter it said, and here's the code to my safety deposit box where there's $1 million. If you just read this and get all the way to the end, I'll give you $1 million. And do with it what you will. It could be a pre-wedding gift for you and your
Right.
new wife to be or whatever.
Could have
Gold
been a
God.
millionaire.
Right.
22
Yeah.
years ago.
Hit subscribe, like it. This has been Ron Dawson.
I'm JD Cochran.
I'm Yolanda T. Cochran.
And next week, maybe we'll have a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Depending on when
they-
JD edits these. By the time he edits these, it could be 2 weeks beyond.
Yo, hey, man.